3 months after betrayal and heartbreak. The pain is different now, but I'm finally learning how to carry it. It's officially been 4 months since the breakup, and if I'm being honest, this has easily been the hardest emotional experience of my entire life. Before all of this happened, I used to think heartbreak was just sadness that faded after a few weeks. But now I understand how deeply it can affect every part of someone's life. The first month completely changed me. I barely slept properly, lost motivation to take care of myself, and spent most nights alone with thoughts I didn't know how to escape from. There were moments where the emotional exhaustion became so overwhelming that even simple daily tasks felt impossible to handle. At one point, the stress and lack of self-care became so serious that I ended up needing medical attention because both my mind and body were completely drained. What hurt the most wasn't only losing someone I genuinely loved with everything I had, but also discovering painful truths after the relationship had already ended. Learning about betrayal after everything was over made the breakup feel even heavier because suddenly I started questioning every memory, every promise, and every moment I once believed was real. Watching someone move on so quickly afterward made me feel replaceable in a way I had never experienced before. For a long time, it destroyed my trust and changed the way I looked at love completely. I stopped believing relationships could feel safe, and for a while I honestly wondered if I would ever be able to open my heart to someone again, without fear. One thing I never understood before heartbreak is that you don't only grieve the person, you grieve the future you imagined together. The routines that became part of your everyday life, the small habits you built together, and even the version of yourself that existed inside that relationship. Suddenly, places that once felt warm and comforting started feeling empty. Songs, conversations, and even random moments during the day could trigger memories without warning. Sometimes I would be doing completely normal things, and then one small reminder would hit me so hard emotionally that it felt like the pain had restarted all over again. I think that's one of the cruelest parts about healing. People often expect heartbreak to disappear slowly in a straight line, but it doesn't work like that at all. Some days I felt calm and almost hopeful again, and then suddenly a memory or thought would pull me right back into sadness. There were moments where certain sentences kept replaying in my head, over and over again, making it difficult to fully move forward. Even now, there are still days where memories appear unexpectedly and leave me emotionally exhausted for hours afterward. But despite all of that, I've started realizing that painful moments don't erase the progress I've already made. Back in the beginning, I genuinely thought the pain would destroy me completely. I couldn't imagine a future where I would feel normal again. But now, months later, even though I'm still healing, the pain feels different. It's no longer controlling every second of my life the way it used to. I've slowly started rebuilding parts of myself again. I returned to focusing on work, preparing for exams, and trying to create structure in my life little by little. Some days are still difficult, but I'm learning how to sit alone with my thoughts instead of constantly trying to escape them. One important thing I've realized is that healing is incredibly messy. There's no perfect timeline for recovery. Sometimes you can feel strong for several days and then suddenly have one emotional breakdown that makes you question all your progress. But healing doesn't restart from zero just because you had one bad day. Missing someone doesn't mean you failed. Crying again doesn't mean you're weak. Recovery is made up of small, invisible steps that people around you often can't even see. I also learned that constantly checking someone's social media, comparing yourself to the next person in their life, or searching for answers, rarely brings closure. Most of the time, it only keeps the emotional wound open longer. I spent too much time looking for explanations that would somehow make everything hurt less. But eventually, I understood that some answers don't actually heal you. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop reopening the same wound every single day. One of the biggest lessons this experience taught me is that you can't lose yourself completely just because you're hurting. For a while, I tried to shut down emotionally because I thought becoming numb would make surviving easier. But ignoring pain only delays the healing process. Eventually, you have to allow yourself to grieve honestly instead of burying everything deep inside. That doesn't mean the sadness disappears overnight, but it does mean you slowly stop letting the pain control your entire identity. I'm still nowhere near fully healed, and I know recovery will probably continue for a long time. There are still moments where I miss the person I thought I knew. There are still nights where memories feel heavier than usual. But compared to the person I was during those first weeks, I can finally see growth. I survived days that once felt impossible to survive. I kept going even when everything inside me wanted to give up. And maybe that's what moving on actually means. Not forgetting someone instantly, not pretending nothing happened, but slowly building a life where the pain no longer controls every part of you. A life where you can finally breathe again without carrying the full weight of the past every single day. One thing nobody really prepares you for after heartbreak is the silence that comes afterward. Not just the absence of messages or phone calls, but the silence inside your daily life. When you spend so much time talking to one person every day, sharing your thoughts, routines, and plans with them, their absence suddenly feels enormous. I remember waking up some mornings and instinctively reaching for my phone before remembering there was nobody waiting for me anymore. Those small moments hurt more than people realize because they remind you how deeply someone became part of your normal life. At first, being alone felt unbearable. I constantly tried to distract myself because sitting in silence forced me to confront emotions I didn't want to feel. But over time, I started understanding that loneliness and healing often exist together. Slowly, I began learning how to spend time with myself again without feeling empty every second. Some evenings are still difficult, especially when memories appear unexpectedly. But I'm starting to understand that being alone does not automatically mean being abandoned. Sometimes it simply means rebuilding yourself quietly in places nobody else can see. I think betrayal changes people in ways they don't immediately notice. Before all of this happened, I used to trust very easily. I believed that if you loved someone genuinely and treated them well, honesty would naturally exist between both people. But after everything ended, I realized how deeply betrayal can affect your confidence, your peace of mind, and even the way you see yourself. For a while, I kept wondering what I lacked, what I could have done differently, or why I wasn't enough for someone to stay loyal to me. Those thoughts became exhausting because heartbreak already hurts enough without constantly blaming yourself on top of it. Eventually, I started realizing that someone else's actions are not always a reflection of your worth. Sometimes people make selfish decisions because of their own emotional issues, confusion, or inability to communicate honestly. Understanding that didn't erase the pain completely, but it helped me stop carrying all the blame on my shoulders. I'm still rebuilding trust slowly, but at least now, I know betrayal says more about the choices people make than the value of the person they hurt. Healing is strange, because most progress happens in very quiet ways that other people never see. Nobody notices the first day you finally sleep peacefully, again after weeks of overthinking. Nobody sees the moment you hear a song that once broke you emotionally and realize it doesn't hurt quite as much anymore. People often expect healing to look dramatic, but in reality, it's usually made up of very small victories. For me, progress started appearing in ordinary moments. Being able to focus on work again for a few hours without thinking about the breakup constantly. Going outside without feeling emotionally exhausted. Laughing naturally during conversations instead of forcing myself to pretend everything was okay. These things may sound small, but after months of emotional pain, they felt important to me. I've realized that recovery isn't always about huge breakthroughs. Sometimes it's simply about slowly returning to yourself piece by piece. For a long time, I kept searching for closure because I believed it would finally give me peace. I wanted explanations that would make everything make sense. I wanted answers that would somehow undo the confusion and hurt I carried inside me. But eventually I realized that closure doesn't always arrive the way people expect it to. Sometimes there's no perfect final conversation, no apology that suddenly fixes everything, and no explanation capable of removing the pain completely. That was difficult to accept because part of me kept hoping that understanding everything would make moving on easier. But the truth is, healing often begins when you stop, waiting for someone else to give you peace and start creating it for yourself instead. I'm learning that closure is not always something another person gives you. Sometimes it's the moment you finally decide to stop, reopening old wounds, and allow yourself to move forward despite never having all the answers. Looking back now, I can see how much this experience changed me emotionally. Not in the sense that I became cold or emotionless, but in the sense that I became more aware of my own strength. During the worst days, I genuinely believed I wouldn't survive the emotional weight of everything that happened. Yet somehow, day by day, I kept going. Even on the nights where I felt completely broken, part of me still chose to continue living and trying. I think pain forces people to grow in uncomfortable ways. It teaches you how resilient you really are when life doesn't go the way you planned. It teaches you that even when your world feels like it's collapsing, you're still capable of surviving one difficult day at a time. I'm not grateful for the heartbreak itself, but I do think it revealed parts of myself I never would have discovered otherwise. It showed me that strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is simply continuing, to move forward quietly while carrying pain nobody else fully understands. Even after everything that happened, I don't want to become someone who is permanently consumed by bitterness or fear. For a while, heartbreak made me believe love only leads to disappointment and pain. But slowly, as time passes, I'm beginning to understand that one painful experience should not define my entire future forever. The betrayal hurt deeply, but I don't want it to destroy my ability to believe in genuine connection someday. Right now, I'm still healing. I still have difficult days. Certain memories still affect me more than I'd like to admit. But there's also a small part of me that finally feels hopeful again, even if only a little. Hope that one day this pain will no longer feel so heavy. Hope that eventually I'll meet people who bring peace instead of confusion. Hope that I'll become someone stronger, wiser, and more emotionally secure because of everything I survived. Maybe healing was never about forgetting the past completely. Maybe it's about reaching a point where the memories no longer control your future. And although I'm still far from fully healed, I think for the first time in a long while, I'm finally starting to believe that better days genuinely exist ahead of me.